liable in the Sarah Palin defamation case. Tyrone Bowman live. Let's talk about it according to Reuters news agency. And here's the summary. The verdict follows a retrial after the 2022 verdict was overturned. The New York Times apologized for editorial wrongly linking Palin to shooting, and Palin and Trump have questioned defamation law standard for public figures. A federal jury in Manhattan on Tuesday found the New York Times at NewYorkTimes.n not liable for allegedly defaming Sarah Palin in a 2017 editorial about gun control, dealing the former Republican U.S. vice presidential candidate a second loss at trial. The verdict came in a retrial of Palin's case after a federal appeals court threw out a 2022 verdict in the Times' favor. The jury deliberated for around 2 hours after a week-long trial. In a statement after the verdict, New York Times spokesperson Danielle Rhodes said, quote, "The decision reaffirms an important tenet of American law. Publishers are not liable for honest mistakes," end quote. Palin's lawyers did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Palin, who is 61 years old, who also served as Alaska's governor, sued the newspaper and former editorial page editor James Bennett over a June 14, 2017 article that wrongly suggested she may have incited a January 2011 mass shooting in an Arizona parking lot. 6 people were killed, and Democratic U.S. Representative Gabby Giffords was seriously wounded in the attack. Bennett said he was under deadline pressure when he added language to, quote, "America's lethal politics," close quote, that linked the attack to a map from Palin's Political Action Committee that put Giffords and other Democrats under crosshairs. The Times quickly acknowledged its mistake and apologized, publishing a correction 14 hours after the editorial appeared online. Lawyers for Palin said that wasn't enough because the backtracking didn't mention her by name. In her closing argument, Times lawyer Felicia Ellsworth alluded to the high burden that Palin, a public figure, had in order to hold the newspaper liable. Quote, "To win this case, Governor Palin needs to prove that the Times and James Bennett did not care about the truth," she said. "There has not been one shred of evidence showing anything other than an honest mistake," end quote. Quote, "This is not an honest mistake about a passing reference to Palin," he said in his closing argument. "For her, it was a life changer," end quote. Palin lost her first trial in January 2022, but the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Manhattan last August said the verdict was tainted by several rulings from the presiding judge. The case had long been viewed by Palin and other conservatives as a possible vehicle to overturn the 1964 U.S. Supreme Court landmark New York Times versus Sullivan. In that case, the court said that to win a defamation case, a public figure must demonstrate that an offending statement was made with, quote, "actual malice," meaning without knowledge it was false or with reckless disregards as to whether it was false, end quote. The second court, however, said Palin waived the argument by waiting too long to challenge the actual malice standard. President Donald Trump has also questioned the standard. Palin was Alaska's governor from 2006 to 2009 and ran with the late Republican Senator John McCain of Arizona in his unsuccessful 2008 White House run. Democrat Barack Obama and the vice president pick, Joe Biden, won that race. Tyrone Bowman, never surrender, never quit.